What's going on, guys? Recon Jack here with our Week 6 matchup against Cap and the Toronto Staraptors, I believe. Yes, Toronto Staraptors. I don't know if I'm going to be doing a team builder, in which case I'll just edit out this beginning part, or if this is going to be my intro to the video. So sit back and enjoy. As you can see from our team lineups, I have brought Kingdra, Celebi, Heatran, Electros, Murkrow, and Aselgor, and he has brought Cinccino, Pharaoh, or Burb, Latios, Sylveon, Aggron, and Drapion. So, just looking at this right away, I see um, kind of two leads in my mind. The Fearow, which can obviously U-turn, and the Cinccino, which is always a good anti-lead, usually, especially against things like my Smurgle, because of its skill link ability. But I knew he had this Cinccino, and I ended up not even bringing my Smurgle. Um, so I was happy that I was happy that that team analysis kind of paid off. Some other and like another lead he could go with would be Aggron just to set up those rocks early game. So those are kind of the three things in my mind I see him leading off with. Uh, I scarfed my Aselgor and gave it just enough speed to outspeed Scarf Cinccino, so which is his fastest mon, sitting at a base 115 speed. So I knew that I'd outspeed anything and I could U-turn on anything. Something else important to note is that he did not bring his Jellicent, so I can Final Gambit on anything I need. Probably looking at that Aggron, that looks like it's going to be the most difficult thing to deal with for my team because even Heatran can't OHKO it with its Fire Blast if it lands, and Electros's flamethrowers don't think they even do half. I think they do. I think it's a 3-hit KO with flamethrower. So it's going to be difficult to take that thing out, but I think that I have the team that could do it. Um, so I'm just going to hop in leading off with my Excelgor, and we're going to see what he leads off with. He leads off with his Cinccino, just like I predicted. I know it's got skill link. That's why people take that thing. I don't even know what its other abilities are. Um, I'm expecting this thing to be scarfed because I don't know. They generally are scarfed. So I'm just gonna get a nice U-turn off and go into my Heatran, which can body any of those 5 hit moves that Cinccino likes to carry, i.e. tail whip, what is it? Tail slap, bullet seed, or rock blast. So I'm gonna just U-turn right out of there, doing a nice 27% to Cinccino as it uses rock blast. My Heatran eats that up pretty well. It takes 34% damage from that. And at this point, I'm pretty happy. I want to stay on the offensive here, and my Heatran is scarfed itself. Obviously, it can't outspeed Cinccino, but it does outspeed it outspeeds the Sylveon, it outspeeds the Aggron, it outspeeds an unscarfed max speed Drapion. It outspeeds an unscarfed Fearow, but at this point in the game, I was thinking that the Fearow would be scarfed as well. I don't know why I thought Cinccino and Fearow would be scarfed, but I did. It does not outspeed Latias, however, and I gave my Heatran enough speed EVs to speed creep an unscarfed max speed Shaman, which has a base speed of 100. Now, I guess I should have just gone the extra mile since I had already invested that much speed into Heatran. I should have put in more EVs to outspeed Latias, which will affect the game later, as you'll see. But I didn't end up doing that. I didn't even think about doing that. I don't know why. I this is an oversight on my part. Anyways, thinking that the Cinccino is scarfed um, into Rock Blast, I'm just gonna go for the Fire Blast here. I really don't know what he's gonna send out. If he wants to send out the Latias, he can. Anything else is going to be taking a pretty decent chunk of damage. Even Sylveon being especially defensive should take. I don't know, maybe I don't even know what the damage calcs are on that, but it should still do a decent amount, and I could move around. Like I could switch out from there. I just want to get some damage off on something. So I go for the Fire Blast, and he goes for the Aqua Tail, which completely threw me off. I thought he was Choice Scarfed and locked in a Rock Blast. Lo and behold, he's holding on to that Aqua Tail. It does like 50% to me, but I live it because I do have HP investment. Thank God, and I get a nice Fire Blast off on the Cinccino, knocking it out. He brings in the Drapion. I'm not sure if he was trying to revenge kill with an EQ or predict a switch and try to. I think he was carrying. He said he was carrying taunt or try to taunt something or set up. I don't even know. I think it gets toxic spikes. Maybe he wanted to set that up. I don't really know. I just knew that Drapion is usually one of two things. It's usually offensive, and the especially defensive set is also fairly standard. Um, so I didn't know what kind of set it was. I kind of wanted to figure it out. Um, I felt like I didn't need Heatran to deal with the Sylveon and Aggron. I felt like I had answers to those in my mixed Electros and my final Gambit Excelgor. So I kind of was planning on throwing away Heatran right here. I knew if this wasn't a Scarf Drapion, I'd outspeed. And I knew if it wasn't, I knew I had Oko with a Fire Blast if it wasn't the especially defensive variant. Um, and I'd still do a pretty decent amount if it was. So I go for the Fire Blast, and I just it just drops. So that was pretty neat just to have the Cinccino and Drapion gone so early in the match, even though my Heatran was like sitting at less than 20% health. Um, I felt like I was still in a good position because his pivot with U-turn Pharaoh doesn't deal that much damage to me, and rocks don't. I'd still have a couple more switch-ins, even if he was able to set up rocks with Aggron, and I could still do damage to something. So he brings in his Latias, and at this point, I want to switch out. I don't want to be fire blasting this. I think I can conserve it for later and do something better with it. So I believe I bring in my Celebi here because no, I bring in my Electros. Right, I kind of got ahead of myself. So I thought he'd be. I didn't know he'd be carrying Earthquake. I was predicting like an HP Ground or something. And I knew my Electros would be immune to that HP Ground, but he ended up going for Earthquake, which was odd. I don't. I'm guessing he ran the calcs prior to this match, and Earthquake, even like on an uninvested, Latios does more because of its 100 base power than 60 base power HP Ground would. I'm not really. I don't know the calcs for that one, but anyways, he goes for the Earthquake. I'm immune to it, obviously, because I have the Levitate ability. Um, so I'm just gonna go for that nice knockoff as he goes for the Side Shock. The Side Shock does do quite a bit of damage to me, um, because originally I had wanted to run like the typical set that I normally do, which is max health, max special attack, Electros with four coverage moves, or I also like max HP, max attack, Electros. But I usually choose one or the other, having max HP as well. This time I ended up bringing a mixed Electros with max attack and max special attack with a positive special attack nature and negative speed nature. And it's carrying Thunderbolt, Flamethrower, Iron Tail, and Knockoff. And I thought that this would be a good way to bait in the Sylveon because typically special attacking Electros does carry knockoff even still without the investment. And I didn't think I thought that seeing Electros, Sylveon, Cap would just assume Sylveon was a safe switch into that, and then I could smack it with an Iron Tail and catch it off guard. Um, anyways, I'm getting way ahead of myself here. So I go for the knockoff, hoping to like knock off some leftovers or something. He actually has a Culver Berry, and it gets to eat that prior to my knockoff, which I think Culver Berry like halves damage from a dark type attack, and then he's already consumed his item, so I can't knock anything off. So I only do like 30% damage to it, unfortunately. Um, and I don't want to take another side shock. And I'm assuming he's gonna go for side shock because that did a fuck ton of damage to my Elytros, and Elytros is definitely a hard mon to deal with. So I just assumed that was the next move he'd go for. So I switch out into my Murkrow to take the side shock. This was a bit of a risky play, especially because this Murkrow is not an Eviolite set. It is a Damp Rock Rain Dance set for my Kingdra. Um, if he had hit me with a Draco Meteor, I would have just dropped here. I would have been wiped off the face of the map. I don't even know if Murkrow with Eviolite lives uninvested because I had max HP, max attack with Adamant Nature on this. I don't know with that spread if it would live a Draco Meteor even with Eviolite or not. But I didn't have to find out because he used a Psy Shock, which I'm obviously immune to, which I was banking on. So that was pretty awesome. He sends out his Sylveon, and I just want to get like a Parahacks on something. I figured since he had Sylveon, it was one of two things. It was either the Choice Spec set or just a Cleric set. And if it was Cleric, which I'm pretty sure that's how he's been using it mostly in his past matches, it would have Heal Bell on it. But having that para is still pretty key, still pretty big. So I went for the Thunder Wave, catch that Sylveon, and I'm not trying to stay in here and get hit by Hyper Voice. So I switch out here and I switch into my Celebi, and this was kind of like this was a predicament here. My Celebi is max HP, max special defense with a positive defense nature and a negative, like I don't, doesn't even matter, attack nature, I think it was. It's not even running any attacking moves. It's running what was it running? Recover, Leech Seed, Toxic, and Recover, Leech Seed, Toxic, and damn, why do I always forget this stuff? Give me a sec, guys. Recover, Leech Seed, Toxic, and Reflect. Right. That's okay. Yeah. Okay. It's running Reflect over Light Screen with holding the Light Clay. I felt like Cap's team had more offensive threats that could do damage to my Celebi. And so I wanted to carry, and the rest of my team. So I wanted to carry the Reflect over Light Screen. But if this was a Choice Spec Sylveon, it could still do like, I don't know, it's like above 60% damage with a Hyper Voice, even with that 252 points invested in special defense. So if that was the case, I would have to Leech Seed Sylveon on the switch and then just recover Leech Seed stall it until it died. Because I don't think I'd win the battle if it was a Celebi versus a, um, if Celebi and uh, Sylveon came in at the same time. I think he would win that with a Choice Spec set. But this wasn't Choice Specs because he ended up being that Cleric, or a Calm Mind variant with Heal Bell. Um, Anywho's, I go for the Reflect, and he goes because I knew I could take at least one hit, and I wanted to get the Reflect up and just kind of scout. And I know at this point I'm faster, or I should be faster than him regardless, because Sylveon is slow as hell. So I go for that Reflect. Gonna see what kind of Sylveon he is here, and he goes for the Calm Mind. So I think that I know I could take a Hyper Voice, and at this point in time, I think I go for the Leech Seed, and he goes for the Hyper Voice and does less than half, and I take some health back with my leech seed, and he knows that he can't stay in on that. So he switches out into his Firo, who this Firo, I don't know who was sleeping on Firo. I've never slept on Firo. It is an ugly ass bird. I've never liked it. I've always hated it since Gen 1. Um, and it is in a lower tier. I think it's an NU or P. I don't remember which tier it's in. But you can't sleep on this thing. It's got or flying stab is always really good to have on any team. So let's just preface with that. Plus, I'm pretty sure it's a normal type, so he gets stab returns. He gets U-turn for switch initiative, and he gets stuff like drill run. So that U-turn smacks my Celebi. It's 4 times weak to bug. It smacks my potential Gardevoir that I didn't end up bringing. It can destroy Heatran with a drill run, and it runs train on pretty much everything else with a nice return, which is neutral against like my entire team pretty much, save for Heatran. So this bird can put in the work, and he sent it in, and I knew that with a Reflect Up, I could take a U-turn, I could take a Drill Peck, but I didn't really want to be staying in against this thing. But so I go for the Recover, and I end up switching out to my Electros. I knew that he could either go. I knew he could go for the U-turn to get Switch Initiative, or the Flying type move. Um, I didn't want to stay in, regardless of what he ended up doing. Um, so bring in the Electros, and he does go for the U-turn. It doesn't do that much because of the Reflect, and he brings out his Latios, and I switch out back into my Celebi because I can eat up uh, Latias's Draco Meteors. I can eat up that Psyshock. I can eat up that Earthquake, and I don't know what his fourth move is, but I'm doubting at this point that it's Shadow Ball, which I could eat up just as well. Um, so he goes for that Draco Meteor, and it does less than half, and he switches out after that special attack drop, and I go for the lead sheet as he brings in the Firo, and this is kind of gonna get like things with the Celebi got a little bit stally here because I just like kept wanting to catch things on the like I kept wanting him to have to switch because of my leech seeds, and I wanted to get that like little residual damage off on stuff while I just like recovered up, set up a reflect, yada yada yada, and just kind of like whittled things down with my Celebi a little bit. Um, this wasn't like my win con, but it was a way to like try to weaken some stuff before I came in and swept later with my Kingdra, which was my initial plan to do. Um, so he brings in his Latios and he goes for the recover, which was his fourth move, not Shadow Ball. Um, and I toxic it. So I'm getting that residual damage off, and he goes into his. And I didn't know if he'd stay in with the Latios, and I didn't know if he'd switch out. Um, but I figured that having the leech sheet on anything was good. If it was on Latios, I'd be getting poison damage, leech sheet damage, and I'd be getting that residual recovery. On anything else, I'd still be getting that residual damage and recovery. So that was my obvious play to go for. He brings in his Sylveon, and he gets leech seated and switches right back out as my Reflect wears off, and I just set it right back up again. And Fiora goes for the U-turn. U-turns out on me, right back into Sylveon, and I leech sheet it again. Like, I'm just going for this leech sheet. I'm trying to whittle some shit down. At this point, I don't know what he's gonna do, but I just kind of got tired of Celebi, and I felt like he brought in Sylveon for a reason, and it's probably the heal bell. And he does go for the heal bell, so this was the perfect time to bring in my Heatran, which I could smack this thing up with a with, with a flash cannon. And if he brought in his Aggron, then so be it. I'd figure out like a way to work around that. Probably send him my Electros at that point. But um, so he goes to that heal bell and then switches out into his. Okay. I'm ahead of myself. This is like I keep doing this. So I go for the Fire Blast, thinking that he'd just switch in his Aggron, predicting the Flash Cannon. That's what I did. But he ends up bringing in his um, Latios, and the reason why I assume he did that is because he knew that I'd predict his Aggron to come in. So he knew that I'd go for the fire type move. So he brought in his dragon resist or his fire resist instead. Which, if that's the case, then props to Cap, and you're like a fucking chess master when it comes to Pokemon. Anyways, I go for the Fire Blast. I do like 30% damage, and I snag the burn, which was pretty big in my mind because even though it has recover, even though he has Heal Bell, it kind of forces him to go for to go for that recover or to make that switch and go for Heal Bell earlier than he wants to because I'm racking out that residual damage on him. But I'm not gonna stay in, obviously, being locked in a Fire Blast. So I just switch right back into my Celebi, who is my check to this Latios. And he recovers up, gets back to full health, and he Draco Meteors me again. I fall down to like 10%, and I just recover up and just eat up that damage while I'm racking up burn damage on him. And I go for the Leech Seed, predicting the switch into Sylveon, and I miss. And there, like, it wasn't the end of the world, but I did lose a lot of momentum because this gives him, like, just that extra turn to recover from to recover from like all that damage that I've been trying to like do to his Pokemon, like the statuses that I've induced. It gives him that turn to breathe when I had been keeping the pressure on him the entire time. So that Leech Seed miss in my mind was pretty crucial, even though like I was able to recover from it later. I think I did a pretty good job recovering from, but you guys can be the judge of that. So he switches out into his bird, knowing that I only have one turn of reflect left and that I can't set up reflect while it's still up. So if he switches in his bird now, then I'd have to either stay in and die next turn, or I'd have to switch into something that doesn't want to take a hit, and he could just U-turn and get that switch initiative, which is a really good play on his part. And I expected him to bring in his bird. I just wanted to get some damage on it, so I go for the toxic. I end up toxicking the bird. And is this the point? Okay, no. So I pretty damn sure he's gonna go for the U-turn because that's what he's been doing all game. I didn't think he was gonna try to overpredict or anything. I thought that he'd just attack what's in front of him, and he does. Which, I mean, U-turn doesn't even. It doesn't just do that. It gives him the switch initiative, so it's the obvious play anyway. But I bring in my Heatran because it resists the U-turn, and it's like the only thing I really want to switch in against the Fearow. Um, so he U-turns and brings in Latios. Here, I was kind of upset with myself because initially I had Dark Pulse on my Heatran, but then like I had been looking at his teams and or potentially his Mons and realized that Drapion was a big threat to my team, especially like my Celebi, and so I switched up Dark Pulse for Earth Power, and that kind of just bit me in the ass because and also what I had been talking about earlier with the speed investment, I could have I could have put in enough EVs to speed creep this Latias. Um, and I just didn't. And there's no real reason why I didn't. It was just an oversight on my end. And if I had remembered that Latias had a 105 base speed and Shaman only had 100 base speed, I would have put in the points to do. But I don't know. I just kind of I can't say it any more than I already did. I there's just an oversight. So I go for the flash cannon here because it's like my only neutral move, and it's got stab, which is kind of nice against this Latias. Here I'm just sacking off my Heatran because I don't think it can do that much in this match anymore. I don't want to switch in anything else on this Latias. Um, and he goes for the Earthquake, killing me. So here This is where not running calcs bites me in the ass. Because, sorry, I had to take a water break there. Because if I had been running calcs, I would have known that this was a banded pharaoh and not a that he had a banded pharaoh and not a scarf pharaoh. And what that would have done, like in my mind, would allowed me to I would have knowing that it was banded and not scarfed. I would have conserved my Heatran because I would know that I outspeed um an unscarfed max speed pharaoh because it's only got like what 92 base speed. So I knew I would have outsped it, and I knew I could knock it out with my Heatran instead of getting outsped and knocked out by a drill run. But instead, I don't run calcs, and I didn't find out he was banned until after the match. So maybe I need to just switch things up and just submit, submit, and start using calcs. I try to stay away from that stuff because when you get into calcs, like a lot of times people get like way too competitive, and I'm not gonna throw out like any specific names because like that's not my place. But I've seen people get really salty over matches and just like take them way too far, and then when they lose, they just or when things like don't go their way, they just get so bent out of shape and just so upset, and then they start tweeting things that they shouldn't be tweeting. They start like making comments and just bringing down the community, and I don't like that. So I try to stay away from it. Anyways, that's enough of my rant with calcs. He knocks out my Heatran, and he's at like 13% health. I figured he was gonna stay in here. I bring in my Bugatti because I can U-turn on anything. If he stays in, I'll KO with U-turn, and I don't know what I'd bring in at that point. Probably my Murkrow. Or if he didn't stay in, I'd be able to get the favorable matchup. I figured he'd stay in, but he decides to conserve his Latias, and he brings in his Aggron, which takes like no damage from my U-turn, but I get the chance to switch into Electros. He Mega Evolves on the first turn and goes for that Curse, which I wasn't expecting him to be a Curse variant. Um, but that doesn't do anything to his special defenses, so I figured that my Flamethrower would do a decent amount of damage because it's like a pure steel type, and I have max special attack investment with a positive special attack nature. But flamethrower is not first. Flamethrower is not stab, and second, Mega Aggron is just bulky as fuck. Like he's just a tank, and he tanks that flamethrower. He takes like 40% damage from it. So it's a 3-hit KO, and I know that he can just like utterly demolish me with like a heavy slam or something like that. But I go for the flamethrower just to try to whittle it down so I can revenge kill later with like anything. But he goes for the rest, and I just like my mind is just like fucked now because he's like I haven't done any damage to this thing. He's sitting at like 1.5. He's got +1 attack, and my Electros is like, fuck. I just wanted to kill the Mega Aggron. And like if I'd killed it like this early on in the game, I would have been like so happy, or just left it at 13% to bring something else in to kill it. I would have been so happy. But he goes for that rest, and I should have expected it. Like Cap is an excellent player, and he brings like a lot of people tend to shy away from rest because they're afraid of those turns where they don't wake up, or if they are carrying sleep talk, they're afraid of those like that potential rule where they don't get the move that they want, and they get rest again, or they get sleep talk again, and they don't, or whatever, however it works, and they don't get that attacking move that they're looking for. So a lot of people like to shy away from rest, but not Cap. No, Cap brings curse, he brings rest, and he brings sleep talk, which you'll see later. And he brings heavy slam, so he brings like one freaking attack, and and it still puts in the work. Anyways, he gets back up to full health. And then he switches out again because, of course, he has the heal bell. And I should have expected this. He has the heal bell Sylveon, which can wake it up, which is an excellent little synergy there. Now that I'm saying it out loud, I'm realizing that that's probably why he was running rest. And that's excellent. Definitely a top-notch player, Cap. Anyway, so I go for the flamethrower, just trying to whittle Aggron down, but Sylveon comes in and I do like no damage. I do 19% damage to it, but I snag the burn again, and I'm in like fucking Burn City over here. Listen to Shofu's fire rap prior to this match, and I just got heated up. My Pokemon got heated up. Their fucking fire attacks got heated up. Fire Blast got a burn. Flamethrower got a burn. Fuck yeah. Anyways, the burn doesn't really matter. It does matter, but not really. It just reinforces him wanting to go for Heal Bell even more, but I'm pretty sure he brought in Sylveon to Heal Bell in the first place. So I knew once he brought in this Sylveon against my Elytros for the sole purpose of Heal Belling, I'd be safe to go for the Iron Tail and just demolish demolish the Sylveon regardless of if it took this burn damage or not. So he goes for the heal bell. His Aggron wakes up. He gets unburnt and he gets dead. He brings out his Fearow here, and I knew that the return was a possibility. But at this point, like his Sylveon is dead, and Electros doesn't is it, it's doing like 40% damage with its flamethrowers, which isn't enough for me to want to conserve it for Aggron. And I have that final Gambit on my Excelgor. So I decide to that my Electros has ran its course here, just in case he like choked and over predicted and went for something else. I went for the Thunderbolt, but he goes for that safe return and knocks out my Electros, which I was prepared for. So I bring in my Murkrow. And at this point in time, I don't know why. I wanted, if I had been able to, like, in my mind, this was a scarfed Murkrow. Like, if I had Thunder Waved it, that was my goal, was to Thunder Wave this Murkrow, this Pharaoh, because right now this Pharaoh is the thing that's beating, like, pretty much my entire team. And it's embarrassing to say because it's a fucking Pharaoh, but it's true. Like this thing puts in the work. So I wanted to slow it down so that I'd be able to fucking kill it with my Kingdra before it killed me. Um, and so I go for the Thunder Wave, thinking that I'd be able to prankster the Pharaoh and it just go for that U-turn. But he brings in his Aggron, which is like obviously this is the obvious play because he's got rest. He can rest off the paralyze, and it's already slow as fuck. So he doesn't care about the speed drop, which I guess I just wasn't thinking um, at that point in the game. Like I don't know. I kind of just threw that paralyze at him without thinking about it. I should have gone for the rain dance. I'm not sure what that would have done at that point, but the rain dance I think was the more aggressive play, not the thunder wave, which is odd to say because normally thunder wave is like the better play to go for, but in this situation I'm not really sure. Anyways, so I'm trying to conserve my rain dance, so I switch out my Murkrow and bring back in Celebi, um, and he brings in his Angry Bird. Wait, how did that work? Did he bring his? Oh, now I'm lost. Right. So I withdraw my Murkrow, and he withdraws his Aggron into Pharaoh, which I wasn't expecting at all. Like I have no, like, if he predicted me to switch into my Celebi on his Aggron, then I don't know if that's like an obvious switch. I don't know if that was obvious to him that I was gonna do that. It's not obvious to me that that is how things would have gone down. But he switched in his Pharaoh as I switched in my Celebi, which was, that was just an excellent double switch for him. Like that was super aggressive. Um, And like I said in my what is it? Week 5 video? Was it week 5? I think it was week 5 video. I like at that point in time before he killed my Celebi, he was still behind the curve. Like he was still losing this game, and like when you're behind and you're late into the game, like you need to make those aggressive plays. I'm not gonna say it anymore, or I'll say it probably one more time. But I said it enough in the last video. Like you need to be able to make those double switches and those aggressive plays because if you don't, your opponent's just gonna play around you and win anyway. So you have nothing to lose by like risking everything. Which he did, and he did it right. And he got his Pharaoh in on my Celebi without a light screen, without a reflect up, and so he was able to U-turn on me and just destroy me, destroy my soul, destroy my dog. Uh, but she's earned some rest, so good job, Celebi, the past couple weeks. I really appreciate everything you've done for me. It's time to sleep now. Anyways, he brings in his Latios, and I bring in my Selgor. I'm just trying to U-turn on it now. Like I wasn't trying to predict anything coming in. Like I was just trying to kill the what was in front of me, and I don't because I U-turn. If I had gone for the final, oh I don't know, I couldn't go for the final Gambit yet because that was my like. Okay, so here's why couldn't go for the final Gambit. If he had stayed in with Latios, I would have I would have killed myself if I had gone for a final gambit against a 13% Latios when I had Bug Buzz and I had U-turn and I had knockoff on my Selgor as well. I would have just straight up killed myself. If I had predicted the switch into Pharaoh and gone for the final gambit, I would have lost the only answer I had for his Aggron because my Murkrow had what did it have? Thunderwave, Rain Dance, Brave Bird, and Sucker Punch. Can't touch Aggron. My Kingdra has Dragon Dance, Waterfall, Iron Head, and Outrage. Cannot touch Aggron. The reason why I brought a physical set of Kingdra over a special set. I wanted something that could set up sweep, and Dragon Dance looked really nice over agility. And I didn't want to be walled by Sylveon and Jellicent. His potential Jellicent that he didn't end up bringing. But if I had brought like Hydro Pump, Flash Cannon, and like a Dragon Pulse or something like that, or Draco Meteor, I wouldn't have been able to like do any damage. I wouldn't have been able to scratch his Sylveon, especially because it was carrying Calm Mind, um, and his Jellicent as well. I wouldn't have been able to touch, and this like kind of goes into I spread myself too thin. So when I team build, I have a very hard time uh, in my mind. What I try to do is I try to pick out Pokemon, like a few, like 2 or 3 Pokemon that I think can deal with specific threats on my opponent's team, like potential threats that my opponent can bring. Um, and I like craft 2 or 3 Pokemon to deal with those specific threats. But sometimes like I get in my own head and I have a hard time like letting go of coverage on certain mons for something else. And Kingdra was never supposed to like Kingdra was never supposed to come out against the Sylveon or Jellicent. That is why I made mixed Electros with a Thunderbolt and an Iron Tail. That's why I had the Celebi, this that could Toxic the Jellicent, that could Leech Seed the Jellicent, and then just recover stall it. That's why I had the Heatran, the Scarfed Heatran with Flash Cannon for the Sylveon. Like I did not need physical Kingdra at all, and I just worked myself too thin there. And yeah, come in.
Real quick, did you have your GT?
No, because it's like two. When I remembered, it was like 11 o'clock at night in the United States. So I need to call later today, which would be the morning in the United States.
Just let me know when you pay it off.
All right, we'll do.
All right, thanks.
Sorry about that, guys. Just trying to figure out some logistical things. It's hard to do when you're in the Philippines and you got to pay stuff off in the United States. Anyways, as I was saying, what was I even saying? Yeah, I spread myself too thin. Kingdra was never supposed to deal with Sylveon or Jellicent, so it should have been a special set because it could sweep the rest of his team. Like any team he brought, I could have swept once Sylveon and Jellicent were out of the way with a special set. And this Aggron, like I didn't really have an answer for now, other than the final Gambit. So I couldn't go for that. That's where I was. So I go for the U-turn, and now I've got to send something in against his bird, and he doesn't know yet what my set is on Kingdra. So I figured he'd stay in. I don't know why I figured that because he knew his bird was his win con. He knew that's what was winning in this game. Um, and he knew he'd outspeed any like if he was scarfed. No, he didn't. So he wasn't scarfed. So he didn't know he'd outspeed me because he didn't know if I was scarfed or not. But he goes for the U-turn anyway, and I just go for the waterfall because I'm trying to knock out. I'm trying to knock out this Pharaoh, and I would have been able to if I hit it with a knockoff. I crossed my fingers that he'd go for a return or something. But he ends up making the right play here, and he goes for that U-turn. Does like 30% damage, and I end up killing the Latias with a waterfall. So he brings in his Aggron, and now I see one of two way. Like I see the only way. In my mind, there's only one way I win this from this position, and that is I need to para-flinch the fuck out of Aggron. And my waterfalls aren't going to be doing dick for damage, so I'm going to have to set up on it. But I know that he has Curse, and I know that he has, which can negate my boost and attack. And he's got Rest, which can get rid of the para. So I just need like a lot of luck here. Um, so I ended up going. Oh no, sorry. Okay, I switch in the Murkrow. Yeah, this is why. Okay, I switched in the Murkrow because I thought that he was gonna make a double switch. I don't know why I switched in my Murkrow. It doesn't even matter at this point why I switched in my Murkrow. Um, it couldn't have done anything for me because I would never get a Thunder Wave off on Pharaoh because every time my Murkrow was in against his Pharaoh, he would just switch back into Aggron. So Murkrow literally did nothing for me here at this point in the game. So it drops, and I bring back in my Kingdra, and I just set up a Dragon Dance. And I'm trying to increase my attacks on my waterfalls to actually do something against the Aggron. He goes for the heavy slam, and it does like no damage. It does 15% damage. So I'm like, all right, nice, nice. Like he can't bring in his Pharaoh anymore because I'm gonna just fucking demolish that thing once I set up another Dragon Dance. So he can't safely. So he has to stay in here with his Aggron. Like right now, this is a battle between Kingdra and Aggron, a paralyzed Aggron at that. So I go for another Dragon Dance as he goes for his own curse, bringing his defense up +1. So I'm sitting at +2 attack here, and I go for the waterfall just to see how much damage I do. I do like 20%, which isn't bad. And my chance for para, it's like a 30% chance to para and a 30% chance to flinch. So my para flinch, or is that right? Yeah, that's right. So para flinch chances are pretty high here. Not as high as I want. Like if I had Serene Grace Kingdra, that'd be fucking baller. But I don't. So I go for that waterfall, do 20%. I don't get the flinch nor the para, which is crazy. Which I mean, it's a flip of a coin plus an extra 10%. So odds were in my favor, but it just didn't work out that way. So he gets the second curse off. Now we're both he's sitting at +2 attack and defense. I'm sitting at +2 attack. His heavy slams are gonna start doing a lot more damage, and at this point, like I need some hacks to go my way. Like I've had hacks this entire game with like the burns, and I just need them. Like I need them now Like if I could take back the two burns and put them into paraflinch hacks, I would do it in a heartbeat. Like there's no questions asked. But these are the hacks that I needed to happen that didn't happen. So I go for the waterfall again. I do 16% damage. He goes for the heavy slam, breaks through paraflinch yet again, does 27% damage with this heavy slam. I waterfall again. I do like 19% damage, and he gets paralyzed here. And I'm like, fuck yes. Like, I'm just gonna set up another dragon dance. Or do I do that right now? No, I don't. I keep going for the waterfall. I got the para. Now I'm looking for the flinch. I do 17% damage to him. He's at 28%, and he breaks through the para flinch, and he gets a rest off. So now he's asleep. So now I only have a 30% chance to flinch, but he's asleep. Um, so I like hopefully have 3 turns to whittle him down with some waterfalls, and then from there I gotta flinch the rest of the way. But I actually end up going for the dragon dance on his first turn of sleep, and he goes for the sleep talk and gets the one attacking move that he has on that set, and my Kingdra drops. And that's the game right there, because it had to be Kingdra. Like Kingdra had to pull through, and it didn't pull through for me in this game, unfortunately. So I bring in my Excelgor and I final gambit just to bring the differential down to a 1-0. Um, just trying to make my differential as best as possible. Just in case like it comes down to that for playoffs, if I even make them at this point. I'm now 3-3. Steel City Snorlax are sitting at 3-3. We're breaking even. Not where I want to be. Not where I envision myself. But I'm not upset. My first 2 losses, I felt like I could have avoided, and that's no knock on those coaches. They prepped well for me. They played well against me, and they beat me fair and square. But I do think I dropped the ball in those 2 matches. This match, however, like I lost and I wasn't upset. Like I was pretty fucking fired up. Like this is why I love this game. Like this was such a close match, and it could have gone either way. Like nobody knew who was going to win. And it got me going. Like it lit that fire that I think a lot of people that goes out for a lot of people after playing Pokemon for a while. And it's that fire has never gone out for me, but it's fluctuated, but it's never gone out. But this definitely like rekindled the flames. This like made that passion fucking burn up in me and be like, oh my god, I just want to play more Pokemon. I want to get better. I want to beat Cap. I want to beat everybody else in this league. Like, and I'm gonna do like what it takes. I'm gonna like team prep. I'm gonna play test. And if I take losses, then I take them because I didn't drop the ball, but because like I just got outplayed, and that's how it should be. And Cap played phenomenally this game. His Pharaoh put in the finest of work. So if you're sleeping on this burb, don't, because it will ruin your day. Anyways, guys, or Cap, fucking GG, man. Amazing game. I hope I get to play you sometime in the future. I know you're really busy with other leagues and your channel and other stuff, but I do hope we get that chance. I want that rematch, and I look forward to seeing how it goes. Um, so with a 1-0 differential and a record of 3-3, this is the Steel City Snorlax and Recon Jack signing off.